Today's sutta is another in this short series we're doing on jhana leading up to our summer study of the Three Marks of Existence. And here the Buddha describes 4 types of Dhamma practitioners and the one that is likely to reach the goal. And that has to do with their understanding of right meditation or jhana practice, but also it's a teaching on kshanti, patient forbearance, and persistent right effort. The Buddha addressed those gathered. Friends, there are 4 types of Dhamma practitioners. There is a type of Dhamma practitioner that enters and remains in mental absorption, meaning the jhanas, and experiences a certain peaceful awareness release. They are mindful of the cessation of self-identification. But even as they are mindful of the cessation of self-identification, their mind is not enraptured with release, with cessation. They do not grow confident or steadfast or well established in the cessation of self-identification. In other words, their Dhamma practice and their meditation practice is more of a chore than something that they're joyfully engaged in because they understand the point. And there's so much included in that. And I won't get too far off the mark, but if you understand true refuge, the Ratana Sutta, if you understand the overall context of the Buddha's Dhamma, you'll understand how sincere Dhamma practitioners can still get sidetracked by their own desire that the Dhamma practice be something other than it is, including a simple meditation practice and then wanting it to be different than it is. There's a sutta we're going to do, I think, next Saturday before we get to the 3 marks, called the Vatupama Sutta. And in that sutta, the Buddha gets into even more detail what it means to be confident in the Dhamma and what you're doing. But it relates to that conviction that this is something worthwhile doing. For these folks that I just mentioned, for them, the final cessation of self-identification cannot be expected. Just as if one were to grasp a branch with hands sticky with rosin, they would cling to the branch. In the same manner, one who remains in mental absorption and experiences a certain peaceful awareness release, but continues to cling to wrong views, is not enraptured with release, with cessation. They do not grow confident or steadfast or well established in the cessation of self-identification. For them, the final cessation of self-identification cannot be expected. And again, just to put that simply, they want something different than just a meditation practice out of meditation. They might want to be trying to attain a trance-like state. They might be hoping for different types of creative visualizations to be realized. They might think that chanting is a meditation practice. None of those are. But those are the common distractions that the Buddha is referring to here. Then there is a type of Dhamma practitioner that enters and remains in mental absorption and experiences a certain peaceful awareness release. They are mindful of the cessation of self-identification. As they are mindful of the cessation of self-identification, their mind is enraptured with release, with cessation. They do grow confident and steadfast and well established in the cessation of self-identification. For them, the final cessation of self-identification is to be expected. And so really what the difference between those first 2 is, one is joyfully engaged in the Dhamma. This doesn't mean some distracted type of elation, but it also is saying that we need to look at our Dhamma practice for what it's intended, to bring us final release from wrong views and the stress and suffering that follows from that. That is something that should naturally engender joyful engagement with it. And one of the reasons why the Buddha is teaching this, and I'm teaching it, is that if that's not part of your Dhamma practice, I think it's part of all of your Dhamma practice, but if it's not, to look at that and to generate it. And I mean, it's okay to think about that, wow, this is really something that I've come across here. This is what that's how I felt when I realized what the Buddha was teaching. This is what I've been looking for since I was a little boy. And I finally found it. And that, I was going to say reinvigorated my Buddhist practice, but it really invigorated it for the first time, because it was now focused on something that could actually bring cessation of these things, of the issues that I was facing in my life, but I had no framework for understanding them, and nobody taught it except the Buddha.
The fruits of meditation in a proper way.
Yes.
And the fruits of meditation as a great visualization, but that doesn't get you.
Yes, and again,
the fruits as an increase in concentration.
Exactly, and that's the reason why the Buddha teaches these 4 levels of jhana, not as achievement, but as a way to evaluate, to benchmark our practice. We know it's working, and because we know it's working, that can only help encourage more joyful engagement. Unless there's that view that is not let go of, that I'm engaging in Dhamma practice to get a reward at some point in the future, or I'm using Dhamma practice to fix this broken self that I find myself in. And remember, this broken self is just a fabrication as well, isn't it? It's like foam on the ocean. So if we're maintaining that idea that I'm going to engage in some practice because there's something missing or wrong with me, is okay initially. And if it's focused correctly, that's the beginning of developing right view. But as the Buddha's teaching here, he's noticing this problem with members of the original sangha. And he's pointing out what's lacking in their Dhamma practice is this joyful engagement born of confidence. And that confidence is born of recognizing that your meditation practice is actually deepening concentration. Just as if one were to grasp a branch with clean hands, they would not cling to the branch. In the same manner, one who engages fully with the Eightfold Path remains in mental absorption and experiences a certain peaceful awareness release. They continue to diminish wrong views, and their mind is enraptured with release, with cessation. They do grow confident and steadfast and well established in the cessation of self-identification. For them, the final cessation of self-identification can be expected. I just wanted to read that again for emphasis. Then there is the type of Dhamma practitioner that enters and remains in mental absorption and experiences a certain peaceful awareness release. They are mindful of breaching ignorance of 4 noble truths. In other words, they're focused to a certain point, but their minds aren't enraptured with release. That last line simply means we're resistant to letting go of some of our or all of our fabricated wrong views. And that often comes up, and I think we've all experienced this at one time, as that kind of underlying fear of what's going to happen to me when I let go of all these views. It feels like annihilation. And when it feels like that, how could we be enraptured with the practice that we're doing? So we need to understand clearly what we're doing and why we're doing it. They do not go confident or steadfast or well established in the cessation of self-identification. For them, the final cessation of self-identification cannot be expected. Just as if there were a long-standing wastewater pool, and during the dry season, a man blocks all inlets and opens all outlets. With inlets blocked and no rain falling, the breaching of the wastewater pool would not be expected. In the same manner, a Dhamma practitioner enters and remains in mental absorption and experiences a certain peaceful awareness release. They are attending to the breaching of ignorance, but they do not grow confident or steadfast or well established in the breaching of ignorance. For them, the breaching of ignorance cannot be expected. Then there is a type of Dhamma practitioner that enters and remains in mental absorption and experiences a certain peaceful awareness release. They are mindful of breaching ignorance of 4 noble truths. Their minds are enraptured with release from ignorance. They do grow confident and steadfast and well established in the breaching of ignorance. For them, the final cessation of self-identification can be expected. Again, the difference is that joyful engagement with the Dhamma. The reference to the wastewater pool, by the way, the blocking the inlets and opening up the outlets is what we do with an unrestrained mind. And we're protective of our views. That's blocking the inlets. There's nothing new that can come in. And the outlet, the metaphor of the outlet is that I'm just internally blathering my life away. There's no control over my thinking. Everything that is fabricated within me is constantly flowing, but there's nothing of real value coming in because of a fabricated view, because of aversion. Then there is a type of Dhamma practitioner that enters and remains in mental absorption and experiences a certain peaceful awareness release. They are mindful of breaching ignorance of Four Noble Truths. Their minds are enraptured with release from ignorance. They do grow confident and steadfast and well-establishing in the breaching of ignorance. For them, the final cessation of self-identification can be expected. Just as if there were a long-standing wastewater pool during the rainy season, and a man opens all inlets and blocks all outlets. With inlets open and outlets closed, and rain falling, meaning the Dhamma is now coming in, the breaching of the wastewater pool can be expected. The breaching of the wastewater pool is the breaching of our ignorance. Remember the verbiage the Buddha is using here. In the same manner, a Dhamma practitioner enters and remains in mental absorption and experiences a certain peaceful awareness release. They are mindful of breaching ignorance of Four Noble Truths. Their minds are enraptured with release from ignorance. They do grow confident and steadfast, and well established in the breaching of ignorance. For them, the final cessation of self-identification can be expected. These are the four types of Dhamma practitioners in the world. That's the end of the sutta.
Now, what is the difference between the first two and the second two?
The real difference is just that, the real difference is simply that joyful engagement and confidence in the Dhamma, which really is another way of evaluating improperly our Dhamma practice, meaning and seeing it from the point of view of acquisition rather than deepening concentration. And so I think in a broad sense, we could say that the Buddha is teaching that if our Dhamma practice isn't focused properly, as he's saying, seeking the breaching of ignorance of Four Noble Truths, if there's some other aspect of our meditation practice, it's not going to bear fruit. And again, falling in line with this series and emphasis on jhana, that's what the Buddha is saying, that in order to develop concentration, at some point, joyful engagement with what we're doing must be an aspect of our Dhamma practice. And this will be even more clear next Saturday, in the Eightfold Sutta. So let me ask you: do you have confidence in your Dhamma practice that it's going to bring you cessation?
I do now.
And the breaching of ignorance of Four Noble Truths.
Yes.
And how has that changed your engagement with your practice?
It's actually relaxed my practice. I used to really, bang my head up against it for a long time, and being frustrated at the same time. I wasn't getting where I thought I was, that I thought I had to go to. My goal was off.
Yeah. That's what the Buddha's teaching here. What are you going? Another way to look at it is, what's my intention for meditating? And then what is my intention to develop the Eightfold Path? And if it's anything other than final release, the breaching of ignorance of Four Noble Truths, your Dhamma practice at some point is likely to get off track. And so again, we keep this in mind. It's one of the reasons why I always say the Dhamma must be developed within the framework of the Eightfold, within the context of dependent origination and Four Noble Truths, and within the framework of the Eightfold Path. That's why they're there, to keep us focused on the goal.
For me, there's been different stages there as to what my goals were. When I first came here and started really being engaged in what's going on, it was really more about understanding the Dhamma.
Intellectually at first.
Intellectually, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I'm a geek. And then at some point I realized that my concentration was severely low. I couldn't stay focused and stay focused in my kind of intellectual pursuit of the Dhamma. And that's when I started my meditation practice. That was,
That's right.
once or twice a week.
You were coming around for a while before you actually.
Oh yeah, I was just coming here for meditation, on purpose, and then kind of sucked me into the Dhamma. And then once I established my meditation practice daily, then I still had to get a better understanding of the purpose of meditation, even though my initial thing was I wanted to get more concentration.
Yeah.
My expectation was off. I was expecting,
And conditioned from past experiences.
From past experience, I was expecting to stop my thinking.
Yeah.
And that was just frustrating. And it was frustrating for a year or more. And we've talked about it over the time during the retreats and here, and you've kept pointing me in the right direction, but I wasn't getting it. And it's really been only about a half a year or so that I'm finally getting it, and it led to a realization in my practice that where I can see my mind go, and I'm okay with it. And I see it, return to the breathing, and lose it again, return to the breathing, lose it again. And but in a much more relaxed manner, and it makes the engagement in at least certainly the engagement in practice, in the meditation practice, a lot more joyful.
Oh yeah.
And then the day-to-day, the rest of the Eightfold Path, that's kind of very slowly increased its pleasure too, but it almost came before my meditation practice. But they go in parallel.
Yeah.
That was for me the beginning of my engagement. Was seeing, this stuff is working, and actually has been working for quite a long time. I am a much more calm, peaceful person now.
And you've grown confident in your Dhamma practice.
Yeah.
Through your own experience. Again, that's something that's part of what the Buddha's teaching here. That if you're, and by the way, he's not saying that if you happen to be one of those that can't be expected to reach the goal, he's not saying that can't change. He's teaching it that if you are still engaged in Dhamma practice in that way, kind of through a grim, response to your Dhamma practice, that needs to be looked at and changed. But it's also by realizing that it's bearing fruit, that changes, to notice that. Again, that's why the Buddha teaches these 4 levels of jhana, and it's really the only reason. The Buddha never taught anything that should be seen as acquisitory. I need to achieve this in order to be something. He simply teaches it as a way to evaluate your Dhamma practice, your meditation practice specifically, so that we can increase our joy and confidence in our practice. It's bearing fruit, just like you described it beautifully. And I would bet you that all of our experiences were similar to Ram's in that way, that we first engaged in this in kind of an intellectual pursuit, and then as we continued to develop our meditation practice within the framework of the Eightfold Path, then we started to understand that it's a concentration practice, a jhana practice. No, is that true? For everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Great input, great insight. Good morning.
Good morning. I was just going to say what you just touched on saying, actually, that we've just come from the looking at meditation and the 4 levels of meditation that you can go, but you can weave from level 1 to level 4 to level 2 to, you know, your mind will just sort of, with it throughout your meditation practice, it will hopefully touch on all of them, you know.
Yeah.
But I think this sutra actually speaks to that as well, because to some extent I can identify with all those outlooks.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm not, you know, fixed in right view all the time, unfortunately. So if you're not fixed in right view, you're either in one of the other sections. And like I said, you know, you can weave about in your meditation on your cushion. You can also go back to life and weave about in all of these sections, just, you know, going through the day with it. So I can identify with all of them. But you know, you just have to come back to class and get your head around it all over again, and point yourself in the right direction, and you make progress. You make progress.
Oh, you definitely do. Do you find that your confidence and joyful engagement with the Dhamma is growing overall?
Yes.
And like with an understanding of impermanence, it's not always present, is it? Or would you say it's not your immediate experience, but it's underlying your motivation? That joyful engagement is always there. At times, maybe just for a minute or two, it seems like the Dhamma's not working. Or this, you know, and that's again, that's an aspect of a mind that is moving from wrong views towards breaching ignorance of 4 noble truths. You know, and impermanence is an aspect of Dhamma practice as well. It's not immune from it; it's there, and that's again we go through these different levels, but as long as that underlying motivation for meditation is to deepen concentration, and we have grown confident in that, then we can be expected to complete it. And this isn't, again, the Vatuma Pama Sutta, I've been kind of keeping in my back pocket because it speaks more, it's more about this idea of growing confidence by recognizing certain qualities, and also recognizing that there's certain qualities that are greatly diminished. There's rather than calling the defilements by, usually we call it defilements, greed, aversion, and deluded thinking, there's 16 other aspects of that are delineated in this. You know, they're all part of those first 3. With the idea that if these are still present, we're going to keep falling back into this lack of confidence and kind of a grudging acceptance of the Dhamma rather than joyful engagement. So important to recognize that it's bearing fruit. Thank you.
Okay.
Mary, good to see you this morning.
Good to be here. I have to say that there are times when I am resistant to sitting down to meditate, and I just, you know, force myself to sit down and do it, and I immediately settle into it, and you know, and I really get a lot out of it. I mean, I come out of it. I reach several of the jhanas, and I realize, why am I resisting this? This feels good.
Yeah.
You know, I just get too tied up in doing whatever it is I'm doing.
That's
and,
it.
And just march myself down to the living room and sit down and do the practice, and it's inevitably a good thing. And overall, all of the Buddha's teachings are so helpful because they teach me to just let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, let it go. Yeah, it's
Even that.
And this is happening now. This is now, and now it doesn't last forever. And just realize that it is but a fleeting moment.
Yeah.
And it will change. You know, you can't hang on to it.
Yeah.
It's very self-defeating to do that. So I like I said, I don't understand why I am resistant to sitting down to meditate sometimes when I invariably have a a really good meditation session each time I do it.
Yeah.
And I know it has overall increased my concentration, period. Good thing.
Thank you. That increasing concentration changes everything.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see that resistance is just an aspect of conditioned thinking, and
Well, it is, and sometimes it's just a matter of, I've been running around like headless chicken,
Yeah.
and I just sat down and I'm like, I want to get up.
yeah.
Basically, sometimes it's just that.
Yeah. It
I wanna
it
get up
is.
and go to the right spot, yeah.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's not like a something morally or ethically lacking in you. It's just human behavior.
Yeah.
It's just, it's normal.
Yeah, and you know, in reality, it's not that much of an effort to walk down the other end of the house and sit down and meditate. But it is conditioned thinking. It's conditioned thinking. I just sat down and I want.
Yeah. Well, and look at, if you just said something that's so insightful, Mary. Not wanting to do something, even something as simple as walking into the next room, is so hard when we don't want to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Think about it. I mean, that what a perfect example of conditioned thinking. But it's true about anything. If you don't have the initial intention to do something, you can't do anything. You can't get out of bed in the morning, can you? If you don't have a desire to get out of bed, it's an aspect of a disease, isn't it? And people with clinical depression can't get out of bed because it's such an effort. And meditation can seem like that at times, especially after a busy day when all I want to do is just relax. But the most relaxing thing we can do is to sit and meditate.
Yeah, having made it in just part of my daily routine, and I'm getting my stuff done in the house, I'm feeding the cats and doing this and that, and then I walk out the door and I go sit in my truck before I drive away. And that sequence actually works perfectly well because I have to do all of that anyhow.
Yeah.
So I just took a half-hour chunk out of that time. And
I still think that's true. That your meditation room is on wheels for that. It's
I
wonderful.
have to change this description of the root of a tree and then
Go find a quiet van and do jhana.
sometimes that's the hard part. For me, that was the hard part of establishing practice. Where am I going to do it? Where am I going to have the privacy?
Well, that's just it, though. That's your empty hut, isn't it?
That's my empty house.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. And I showed you the picture. I look out on this little garden.
Yeah. The setting can't be beat.
Goose eating
Crazy goose. Kevin, good to see you this morning. An unexpected pleasure.
Great to I just have to echo what everyone else has said as well. I think we're on this path, this middle way, and sometimes our minds just get us astray from that. Our ego self just gets us off while we're trying to meditate. And all the hindrances come in. I have to fix this or I have to do that because of attachment. Read about something, and then we're just sloth and torpor, like just trying to get to do it, get your mind going, engage.
Yeah.
At times it can be extremely difficult, but again, it's so worth it. We can get our minds to settle, to keep in concentration, as we talked about it, and it's just so worth it.
I agree. And what you just described is a lack of concentration, isn't it? That's what it is, getting caught up in our thoughts again. Or even that aspect of, I don't want to leave the one room to go to the next, is because this room is serving to distract in some way, even if it's just to distract by doing nothing. It's comfortable, it's familiar. I mean, I can't, if I could reclaim anything in my life, well, there's two or three things that I would reclaim. One of it would be all the times I wasted in front of a TV. it's just big, but it was a perfect, for me, it was a perfect mindless distraction, which I think is why most, I mean, there's some value in watching an occasional news program, I suppose, or maybe a documentary. But any,
I also
anything, yeah.
It's all designed to distract.
Yeah, it really,
Everything
it,
is designed to distract. from
everything,
the source.
yeah, it really is amazing, and everything is designed to sell me something. That's something I found. Because there was a period of time, maybe 3 or 4 years, where I hardly watched any TV. Maybe because I was a little bit confident in what was going. This was really during the probably the first. It was a short while ago, and then I started watching TV again, coming up to the last presidential election. I just had to see what was going on. One of the things I was shocked was that everybody and everything, the whole system is designed to sell me stuff, and it really is offensive, isn't it? And then forget about all the rest of the nonsense, but and all of that. I was talking to someone about this the other night about. A lot of people get caught up, and there's so many difficulties, so much problems in the world. How can we do something like this? It feels isolationist from that point of view. Except it's just that way. That's why we do it, because the world is, as the Buddha taught 2,600 years ago, the world is a flame. It's a flame with what? With passion. It's no different now than it was then. And just for my own mental health, I need a way of disentangling myself from all that, don't I? And this is the perfect way.
I really like the whole metaphor, though, cesspool.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, in Buddha's day, that was, you know, maybe the most horrible places where it could be cesspool.
Yeah. Well, even today, it's not all that pleasant.
Yeah, it's still horrible. But we have so many more cesspools, though.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. I mean, there's the distraction of television and YouTube.
Yeah.
And
they're all cesspools,
they're
aren't
all
they?
cesspools.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you get so wrapped up in them. You don't allow that inlet. If you do allow the inlet to wash this out, the rain to come to wash away these effluents that
Yeah. And what a great metaphor that, you know, it's our role as Dharma practitioners to breach that dam of ignorance and let all the effluence flow out of us. It's a great metaphor, a great sutta. I think next week we're going to do that Vatupama Sutta, and probably the week after that we're going to start a 6 or 8 week course of study specifically on the 3 marks of existence and what it really means to encounter dukkha at the point of contact. It's something we're ready to really look at and understand. So I'm excited about it. As excited as this old meditator can get. Any other questions or comments about today's class, or maybe what we're doing here? Okay. We'll finish with metta, as we always do. That's my spot. These are the Buddha's words on metta from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing, in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, was not born again into this world. Thank you all for a wonderful class this morning. Peace.